15, 51, 13 can become 13. And can you see this part, that 13, the way it's written? 3 is in the mirror image. If I ask some children to read this word saw, it might become was for them. And if I ask the child to read this word spin, it can become snip. And as I was discussing earlier also, if I ask my student to replace a sound, one of these segmenting the sound or blending the sound, if I ask them instead of the last sound, make it t, they will find it very difficult. If I ask them to make say the word spin and now replace the sound with t, it can become, instead of becoming that, they find it very hard. They cannot say, okay, spit. Or if I ask them to read this word with different variations of what they will read here, not at times can become ont or nod, or if I ask them to read this word God, it can become dog, or this word on can become no. For example, these were some examples of basic examples of how they read and what kind of errors they make. Now, here is another example. If I give them this kind of a problem in math, how do they receive that? How do they perceive it? We all know that in math, the operation sign is here on this right side. But when we start where do we have to start the math problem? We start from this side, from the left side, from the 1 side, and then we go to the 10 side, and then we go to the 100 sides. But why is this for the children? It becomes very confusing. They might start doing the sums from math sum from here. They might start 6, 8, and 5. They might do it like this. And here also the subtraction sign is on this side. They get confused. They will start from here. But why is this so? It is very confusing for children. So these are some basic examples. Now, another challenge could be here the language of math is different. We are asking add 35 and 25. What is the meaning of the word add? And another a small example, subtract 27 from 56. So how they will do it? They will write it 27 minus 56. They don't understand from this number could be bigger and this could be smaller. They have a challenge there. So because this number comes before 56, they will write 27 on the top and 56 underneath. And they don't understand the difference between the larger number or the smaller number. Why? Because the pre-number concept, the pre-math concept, or the math readiness skills are not there. So these are small examples before I wanted to go ahead with my presentation. So I am going to stop sharing my screen now and go on to the, let me, okay, let me start with my presentation. And I will be going on the slide share mode. Okay. So can we all see properly here? Is it visible? Is it going fine?
Yes, we can see.
Okay. Okay. So today in our agenda, we yesterday did the overview of learning disabilities. Today we are going to talk about different types of learning disabilities. What's this? Something is a challenge here. Okay, let me reshare my screen. Okay. I am going to give you another experience of trying to read this small story. Take a couple of minutes, take a few seconds, try to make if this makes sense. On the next slide, I will be showing you what is the real story or the actual story here is. Here we are seeing the words not on the straight line, and spellings might be a challenge. Here, the example here is about a story being or the written words or the written content being appeared, which the way it is appearing to the student there, because of the visual processing issues. So if I'm going to the real part, the actual story, once upon a time in the middle of a thick forest stood a small cottage. It was the home of a pretty little girl, Red Riding, pretty little girl. So let me go back. Yeah. So Red Riding Hood, because the very brightly colored coat she wore. One day her mother, so these I could make out that take her this basket, but be very careful. Some of the words which I could decipher are these words from this passage. So how was the experience of looking at the previous slide? How did it look like? Yeah.
And you can put a comment in the comment sections, which is the chat box, for her to know what you think about the comments, because we've muted everyone so that we can have a good flow. But if she asks anything and you have something to express, please put your comments, your questions and everything in the chat box. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so let me try to read this passage from here, what it says here. Once upon a time, in the middle of the thick forest, there stood a small cottage. It was the home of a pretty little girl. I can't read it. It's very difficult for me. So in the second passage, I can see grandma's ill. Take her this basket of cake, but be very careful. Don't talk to strangers through the don't something like that. So yeah, so this is what the kids at times might experience with learning disability when they are looking at the content. Even if the passage or the stories, the content might appear all right to the other people, but to them it might be appearing out not in the context or up and down because of some of the visual processing issues. Now, I am going to share another experience and research-based fact that no two children with learning disabilities will have exactly the same challenges. As we were discussing yesterday also, that it's a spectrum. So some children may have dyslexia in combination with dysgraphia and or dyscalculia. So these differences may occur separately or in combination with each other. Just like no two human beings have the same fingerprints, no two people will have exactly the same type of learning differences. So what are the different kinds of learning disabilities if we are talking about a spectrum? So what are the different parts or different types of learning disabilities? Dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia, dyspraxia, and dysphasia. So I have mentioned here auditory processing disorder and visual processing disorders. Sometimes they are considered a part of learning disabilities, but to me, these problems are more associated as comorbidity factors also. So there is a big overlap. We can count them as a part of learning disabilities as well as separate also, but they coexist. Children with learning disabilities will be showing us challenges in auditory processing as well as visual processing. Now, I wanted to share one video here with you. It's seeing dyslexia differently. Here, this one.
Your brain is amazing, and nobody else has one quite like it. Although everybody's brain looks the same, they all work differently from each other. Just as we all have different color skin, hair, and eyes, we all have a brain that's individual to us. Like a fingerprint, we have different personalities, tastes, strengths, and weaknesses. Our brains can even see and understand the world in different ways. One of those ways is called dyslexia, which affects how the brain handles information it sees and hears. Dyslexic people may find it difficult to match letters to sounds and to remember how to spell words. They may even see letters moving around when they're reading. They might have trouble telling left from right. Remembering lots of instructions can be especially hard. They may need more thinking time to remember the right word.
Chicken! No, wait. Duck!
As well as memorizing sequences. It may be difficult for them to hold a pencil and to write by hand. Even organizing themselves can be difficult. But everyone with dyslexia is different. It can affect how people feel about themselves. When they struggle with a task that other people find easy, they may feel frustrated, angry, or sad. Some dyslexic people try to hide their difficulties because they are worried about what others will think of them. However, thinking differently can be a really good thing. A person with dyslexia may be very good at seeing patterns and solving problems, imagining and rotating objects in their heads, telling stories and making people laugh, taking things apart, understanding how they work, and figuring out how to put them together again. Inventing, drawing, painting, and making things. Seeing the bigger picture. Dyslexic people can do a lot of things. They just might do them in a different way to how others would, and many of them have even become famous for it. There have been many famous dyslexic inventors, writers, scientists, business people, astronomers, paleontologists, actors, cooks, singers, artists, architects, and so on. Dyslexic people have changed the world. See dyslexia differently.
Okay, now let me go back to my presentation, and we were here. So as we discussed as it's clear from this movie that there are no two people with dyslexia who will have the same traits or the characteristics. So we are moving on in discussing about what different types of learning disabilities will look like. And I'm before we, in the middle of my presentation, I will show you one or two more videos about famous dyslexics, and another one how it feels like with with a child who has a writing disability, which is called the dysgraphia. So here a brief description of the types of learning disabilities. Dyslexia, a language and a reading disorder. Dysgraphia is the problem with written language expression. Dyscalculia is the problem with math, arithmetic and math areas. Non-verbal learning disabilities, where the children have problems or challenges in interpreting the non-verbal cues like facial expressions or body language, and may have poor coordination skills and social skills and spatial awareness. So some part of nonverbal learning disabilities is also connected with the perceptual motor areas of development, but there is no language part involved. So those are, we can group them as challenges with the cognitive or the motor skills also. So one part of the learning disabilities is affecting the comprehension area, which is dysphasia. Dysphasia is the limited ability, and a complete lack of understanding or comprehension could be aphasia. There is dyspraxia, trouble with the gross motor skills, fine motor skills, and along with the movement and balance skills of our bodies. So now we have already discussed this part, that no two children have the challenges, the same part, same type of learning disabilities. Now, if we go on describing the characteristics of children with dyslexia, so we have divided dyslexia in two parts here, related to visual processing weaknesses and related to auditory processing issues. So now the types of errors or characteristics and signs and symptoms of children with dyslexia with visual processing issues can be confusion with the letters that differ in orientation, B and D, P and Q, and with the words whose parts can be reversed, like was and saw, as I showed you some examples, losing the place while reading, omitting the letters because they were not noticed, difficulty learning irregular words or which cannot be sounded out. For example, here, these are reading as well as writing. Can you see the example here?
Dr.
This is the, yeah.
I'm so sorry. Is it possible we can have a slideshow?
Oh, sorry, my mistake. I did not check on that. I missed that part. Okay, so here you see the spelling, the way the child has copied. The words are written on the right side. No, this was the dictation part. I had told one of my students to write spin as the second word. If you saw the top part, spin, S is written, and the words are reversed as well as the mirror images, and they have started writing from right to left. Slam. The orientation problem is there, how the paper is being oriented. Grin. GR is reversed, G is reversed. And overlap of I and N. Skin. Do you see how the skin is written? Oops, sorry. Yeah. And here, the child has to copy the sentence, the owl was a bird. See the challenge with sight word, how they have copied TEH, owl is written fine, was became saw, a bird became brid. Okay, before I move on to the next part, I have another video which I want to show you this part where it is about how the experience.
Which hand do you recommend?
Okay, let me.
Disability. Try.
I want to show you this one small video here before we go on to the next one.
Learning disability. Ever wonder what it's like to have a learning disability? Try this exercise. Pause the video, then get a sheet of paper and a pen and
I would request, if you have some people have the paper and pencil to write on, try this exercise just for a few seconds.
prepare to write. Which hand do you write with? Use the other one to copy this sentence. The moon shone brightly through the window and cast light on all of the various objects the old woman had collected throughout her life.
Do you hear the sound of the effort being going on? How you guys are experiencing it? Yeah. And can you see on the screen, sometimes some of those words are appearing to be moving a little bit? Because when the children are looking at the board and copying it, trying to note down, there is not just one thing going on. They have to look at the board, read the word, give that whole instruction or the information goes to our brain. Then that information, the reading of the words from our working memory and short-term memory, that instruction has to go to the motor part of our brain, give the instruction to our hand what to write. And then I might lose the space after 2 words.
Stop. Time's up. Turn your paper over so you can't read it. Do you remember the sentence you copied? How did you feel while you were writing? How does your hand feel? Now on the back, take a minute to write a descriptive sentence. Using at least 2 adjectives, describe the view out your bedroom window.
Please share your experiences and in the chat box. In the chat box, can you please share your experiences? Okay. So now okay, I went a little back. So again, as I'm explaining this, they can spell difficult phonetic words, but not simple irregular words also. Sometimes there could be omission of the letters from the word, like family, substitution of letters instead of C-A-S-T as cast, they will write K-A-S-T. Phonetic spelling of irregular words, sad for said, reversal or the vowel consonant order change, letter orientation confusion, reversal letter sequence. So here again, I am showing you some examples of the decoding, the reading. Decoding is the reading part. How they can read it. Stairs, this is the correct reading would be like this. The challenge would be poor readers or the struggling readers could be stairs. They might skip out they might not be in a position to combine these 2 sounds of the letter consonants, that cluster of the letters. Now, as far as the encoding, the spellings goes, they might write S-T-A-I-E-R-S, as stairs, or there could be S-A-I-R-S because they are not hearing the sound of T in the word stairs. So how would we do that? We can have a long sessions. So when we sound it, stairs, so we might do with these kind of blocks. Again, we will be using these kind of blocks to represent each sound. So this is called the orthographic phonemic mapping. So we use these blocks to say, or I can display it with the coins. All these coins we can use, or those blocks, airs. And these are very useful techniques, but we are not worried about working on the techniques of writing or reading or multisensory strategies today. Our purpose is to understand what kind of symptoms do we see in the children with learning disabilities in reading and spelling, which are dyslexia arising from visual processing issues or the phonetically from the auditory processing issues. Okay, so let me go on to the next part of my so the reading and spelling errors because of the auditory processing issues. Difficulty blending individual sounds into the words, poor ability to remember individual sounds or combination of sounds, difficulty listening to words and omitting one sound and substituting another, as I showed in the previous examples. Like if there is a sentence they have to write, to read here, the cat jumped over the moon. Omission could be they might skip out the word E and the word and C, and they might read that. And a displacement. So jump is completely missed out, and they are displacing the sound of t with ed to make it ted. Insertion, there is no took in that part. They are inserting from their own imagination, took. That Ted took that on. So omission, from the moon, they have omitted the component of mo, M-O. So now condensation, from the and cat, they have made it the one word, that. Jump, dismiss, omitted the part ed, that, jump. Reversal of moon, it might become noon, and man. So guessing, sometimes they are guessing the words also while they are reading. They may have difficulty in rapid retrieval of the sounds, the beginning or the ending of the sounds. So sometimes sometimes they have difficulty in analyzing the new word because of the poor knowledge of phonetics rules, like for difficulty analyzing new words, because they don't know the phonetic rules, that why do we use CK at the end of the word, because if there is a short vowel in the sound and it's in the word, and it's a one syllable word, and if the ending of the sound is k, we will be writing it with CK. So I'm going to show you the example of a phonetic rule if they don't know the rule. For example, if the word is back, back. So we hear the sound, in the word back, there is a short vowel sound of a, and the spelling rule for the sound of k is with CK. CK is saying the sound of k after a short vowel sound. But sometimes the children may write it BAC or BAK because they don't understand they don't have the knowledge of the phonetic rules. Or for example, another phonetic rule is they may not have the knowledge of why do we use the sound of TCH at the end in the word CATCH, or stitch, STITCH. So why? In these are the short vowel sounds, and after the short vowel sound, for the sound of ch, we use TCH. But for example, in the word lunch, LUNCH, why do we write only CH? There also is a short vowel sound, but immediately after short vowel sound, before the sound of ch, there is another consonant. The sound is there. So we don't have to use the TCH there. There are so many other rules. For example, the silent E rule for how do we write this word? Like what difference does it make? For example, the word is tap with a short vowel sound. What happens if we add the E word there? This E is a bossy E or a silent E, which does not want to say its sound. What it does is, it makes a short vowel inside the word say its name or the long sound. So tape, hate. The other word is rate, skate. And some more words can be, I am going to show you some more words here for these rules. K-I-T-E, kite. Same word, the base root word is kit, with E becomes kite. Then other words could be hope, roam, rope. So the knowledge of the phonetic rules or the spelling rules is also important for children to learn. Some children by default will know these things, understand these things, but with dyslexia, with reading and writing challenges, this becomes very challenging for them. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, signs and symptoms of children with handwriting challenges, which is called dysgraphia, slow and labored reading. At times, it will be illegible and often sloppy writing. They might start writing on the top part, and their writing may go from this part. If they are not given the writing lines, their writing may go down, or they may write too big, or they may be writing too small. It's not legible. They might be putting too much pressure on their pencil or the pens, or too little pressures. Uncomfortable writing posture. Sometimes the kids will hold the pencil like this, or some kids are holding on the pencils like this, and inconsistent letter sizes, slants, spacing, and letter formations. For example, this is one sample. Okay, formation of letters containing vertical and horizontal strokes may be a challenge. Writing the reversals continue longer than average range in children with learning disabilities. But when the kids, this is an example where we say, when the kids start to write, reversals is a part of developmental process. But if it continues for a longer period of time, then it becomes a concern. And sometimes we have seen that some kids say the words aloud while writing. We might not stop it sometimes because it is helping them to hear the word or the letter sounds in their own sounds. But somewhere they have to read silently and write it, or hear it and write it. That's again a developmental part. So there is some controversy at times. They say if we should allow the children to say it aloud, but we can say, okay, if you have to say the word, read it, say that word in your mind or to yourself. Omitting letters and words from sentences. The sentence, as I showed you one example, they can omit the letters or words from sentences. The cause for this is the processing speed, about what we were talking yesterday in the cognitive skill areas. Why do they omit the letters and words? Because sometimes what happens is their mind is thinking too fast, but the speed of transferring that information from their brain to the motor part of our hand to write it is not there. So there is a mismatch because our brain is processing the words to be written down faster, but our motor coordination skill, which is helping us to, which guides us to write on the paper or in the notebook, is slower. There is a mismatch. So that's why they might skip out some words and letters from the sentences. So some of these samples for their writing. So this sample on the right, I can, okay, let me go back. Yeah, so if you can see the difference on my screen, I'm trying to see. Okay, now people with dysgraphia often have trouble concentrating on other things while writing. This, yeah. So why is this so? Because they are putting so much emphasis and effort in writing, so that their focus and attention is completely on the writing part. So because of which they can skip out the instructions given in what's happening around them. They can miss out. They can miss out what's happening in the classroom or what the teacher is saying in the class, because their whole energy and effort is on the writing part. Handwriting problems of students with learning difficulties or disabilities have been related to underlying visual perceptual difficulties and motor incoordination or attention weaknesses. Here are some samples of math issues, the numbers thing. On your left-hand side of the screen, what you see are the examples of, or the samples of my own students' work. And on the right side, I picked up from an image from the Google to show how they are, how the samples are. So these are on the left-hand side, you will see the real challenges what the kids are facing. So I can talk on and on about math, but I'm trying to limit the information about the math, the signs and symptoms of dyscalculia. In the early grades, they can have challenges in counting, and they may have difficulties in recalling the basic number facts such as number bonds, or the like 6 plus 4 is 10 and 4. So here, if like basic number facts, like I'm going to show you on this on my whiteboard. 6 plus 4 is 10. 7 plus 3 also can make 10. 8 plus 2 also makes 10. So these number bonds, how the different groupings of each how the different grouping of small numbers can make one bigger number. And times fact, like what are the commutative properties of addition? 3 plus 7 and 6 plus 4, 4 plus 6, 5 plus 5, 8 plus 1, 8 plus 2, 9 plus 1. What is the common answer to this? This is all 10. So they will find it difficult to get this concept. And also, if we write 8 times 2 and 2 times 8, or 3 times 2 or 2 times 3 is the same thing. So this, they might find it challenge. Why is 3 times 2 6 and 2 times 3 is also 6? So how we resolve this? We will make 3 groups of 2s with the counters, or like this. This is the representational stage of learning math. 3 times 2, 3. How many groups of 3? 2. And how many groups of 2? So again, how many are here? 6. How many are here? 6. So we have, this is the representational stage of teaching. So for math teaching, the multisensory stage, we follow the concrete, representational, and abstract level. So this stage is at the representational level, and the concrete will be using the manipulatives like blocks and the other things. So they may have challenges with the place value, may have a confusion in left and right. So it's taking, yeah. So some more examples of the challenges in math here. For example, in the first addition sum 18 plus 22, what do we feel there? 8 plus 2, 10, and 1 plus 2 is 3. So they have not understood the concept of regrouping. So 8 plus 2, 10 they have written, and then 1 plus 2, 3. So as a matter of fact, once they have to do 8 plus 2, 10, the 1 should have been taken over to the tens column. And in the second example here, 74 plus 13, what? So 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. That's correct. They have done fine. 66 minus 21. 6 minus 1 is 5. This is 9 minus 7, 9 minus. So these type of errors we will see. Again, in the question number 8 here, you see the same challenge. 9 plus 3 is 12 and 8 plus 3 is 11. They have not done the regrouping well. So this kid is having a challenge of regrouping. So how many rods here? What do you see the challenge in this on the right side? So the child has not counted properly. So, or has the 2, 3, 4, the number of rods is 15. Instead of 15, the child has written 12, and the 2 is also reverse direction. So, so the challenge in this part, while the child is counting, is because of one-to-one correspondence. One number to each of the rods. He is not in a position to give there. So now this was briefly about the early grades. I've gone to the upper, elementary to middle school. Doesn't understand, the child may not understand the vocabulary of math, often can't make sense of the word problems. Before that also, there is a strong connection of between math and the language. So there are so many terms associated with addition only: add, few, add more, put together. So what different terms do we use for addition with the math? Add, total, put together. So add, put together, total, more. So how many, all together, complete, full, all those different vocabularies are related to addition. Then subtraction, take away, subtract, minus, and for multiplication, groups of this thing, multiply this thing, product of these two numbers, division. And then in division, there are so many terms associated with the concept of division, like divisor, quotient, revision, remainder, and different presentations of the math problems in division also makes a little challenging. So we have different representation of the dividing part. So I will in the fraction form, or so these are the two common parts of division, what we show 3 times. So this is again confusion, and this sign can be seen as a subtraction sign. The sign of equals to the sign of addition and multiplication, these can be confusing to children. These symbols this symbol of equal can be seen as two subtraction symbols separately. So this symbol and this symbol is very confusing. Again, why is it so? Because of the visual perceptual processing issues. So, and what is the implication? And the biggest part for the mathematics or the math is that sometimes we don't link it to our real life situations. And there is a difference between math learning disabilities, dyscalculia, from math anxiety. There is a fear of numbers in some children, but that doesn't mean that the kids have learning disabilities in math, because of the challenges in how we are teaching, and if we are teaching the math as a subject in school, or are we trying to correlate it with the real life math, real life experiences, it becomes more fun. It's not only a subject at that time. So it will be more fun for the children. And if we are using the right kind of strategies and curriculums, it will be more fun for the children to understand math. So, because the real, okay, here again, if we ask the children, how fast can you count these dots? Children with dyscalculia take longer than other children to count dot patterns. They may lose the space because their eyes cannot process the whole information and send, they don't have a challenge with visual aspect. They can see visual acuity is correct, but they may have a challenge how they may start from one end, they may lose their space. So again, visual processing. So which number is larger here out of 3 and 8, 7 and 9, which is greater? So which appears bigger might be a bigger number for them. So sometimes children have challenges applying math concepts to money, such as calculating the exact change. If you give them X amount of money to go to a store, buy 3 things together and total that, and if they give a bigger currency note, so how much would be the change they are getting? So that involves, in real sense, 3 or 4 different skills. So they have to look at the pricing of for a pack of chips, for a box of juice, and a bag of cookies. So they have to add those three different pricing, then subtract it from the money what they're giving. So that becomes challenging for the children. And then they might still rely on calculators for simple math functions like adding and subtracting. So sometimes they have trouble estimating how much something will cost or how long a trip will take. Estimation is not there. So sometimes they can't remember friends' phone numbers or addresses. They may avoid asking math-related questions from day-to-day conversations, and they might be getting late. So how does it affect dyscalculia in our daily life? So mental manipulation of graphic images, communication ideas, memory. So all those things are, so this is, Rosalind, I have a question for you. Are we giving the handouts or some material to the participants?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so they will get, so I don't have to go over each of the slides. They can get all this information and go through it then. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to the next one now. I have briefly touched upon the challenges in math. We are going over the non-verbal learning disabilities now. So people with non-verbal learning disabilities struggle with a range of conditions that include social and spatial disabilities. They are marginalized and isolated sometimes. They can experience social barriers throughout their lives. So what are the challenges there? They may have challenges in their interpreting the social interactions. They can't understand the body language if they're getting the feel that their teacher is asking to stop, to go slow, sit down. So those facial expressions, postures, tones of voice, if they don't understand or discriminate if they're getting a scolding or somebody's being sarcastic or somebody's being angry with them. So sometimes they don't understand the idioms and the humor. Reading comprehension may be impacted. They have challenges in understanding the charts and diagrams, maths, all those skills with where we don't need the as such the language communication. The communication aspect from the non-verbal aspects like gestures, facial expressions, body language. So that is covered under the non-verbal learning disabilities. Now, learning disability in the reading comprehension, limited ability is dysphasia, and complete absence of reading comprehension will be aphasia. So a learning disability in reading comprehension affects a learner to understand the meaning of the words and passages. So it is very rarely that we will find only this challenge. So this challenge will be because of the challenges in reading and spelling. This is a resultant or a byproduct of reading and spelling errors. So I don't want to go too much of details into this part because we don't find the cases for dysphasia in isolation. They have difficulty, the children who struggle with comprehension issues, they can't find the central idea or time. They may not get like what was the main idea of the story, who was the main character in the story, so where was this incident happening, or whose birthday was it in the story, so where were they staying, what could have happened before the story, what could be happening, like they can't imagine what could be the prediction, what could happen next, on the challenges with sequencing the whole story event. So factual information they might get, but if they have to infer something, the hidden inferential information, then there is a challenge. Factual information is very easy at times, but if they have to infer the information from the passage, what could be the underlying reason of the situation, or things related to that, there is a challenge. Okay, dyspraxia. Dyspraxia is also known as the motor learning difficulty or the perceptual motor dysfunction and developmental coordination disorder. The term minimal, in the earlier times of the history when the concept of learning disabilities was emerging, the terms minimal brain damage and the clumsy child syndrome were associated with this kind of, because was associated with these kind of children's behaviors, because as teachers and parents, we have seen some kids are very accident prone. They might be tripping over somebody, they might, their things might be scattered all over, and their backpacks may not be organized. Their own grooming skills are also not so well developed. So they may have challenges with their motor coordination, challenges like they may have challenges in sitting, crawling as a developmental piece. So some parents feel very happy that our child did not crawl. Our kid started directly walking. But it's a challenge if the child has not gone through a proper milestone, that it may cause challenges later on. And some children have challenges, their developmental milestones in speaking and talking are slower, or late bloomers, or late developing late. So these can be the early warning signals for the parents to keep a watch for. So so again, these are all related to dyspraxia or the perceptual motor coordination skills. So they may take a little longer time to be completely potty trained. So all these type of things are there in the, as are the signs and symptoms of dyspraxia. So they may have challenges in dressing up properly, tying the shoelaces, buttoning their shirts, and the zippers on and off and then so most of the time the parents will think, okay, if the child is struggling with tying the shoelaces, they may get the Velcro shoes or the slip-on shoes for the children. But we can skip out that part, but it's a big piece of our developmental process. So if the kids are not in a position to tie the shoelaces properly, at a later stage, they may have a challenge in holding the pencil properly. That's why their handwriting challenges will be there. So again, using the scissors could be a problem. The pen, coloring within the boundaries, drawing, playing with the jigsaw games, because jigsaw puzzle games are at times very intricate. They have to fit into the complete groove of the puzzle piece as such. If they have challenge, they may not find the correct pieces of puzzles, and they may find it difficult to join the team games or the motor or the activities and games which need a lot of motor coordination. And the other children from their classroom may not want to play with them because they may not follow the instruction, or they may be clumsy in working in a team game which requires a lot of motor coordination. And problems in the gross motor skills like hopping, jumping, playing hopscotch, catching a ball, kicking a ball, and all those things. So some find it very hard to go up and down stairs fluently, like in the running way. They may be using their both feet to climb up and down the stairs, and a higher tendency to bump into things, to fall over and to drop things. And why do they bump into each other or bump into the things? Because sometimes their perception of depth or the distance is not there. And they may have challenges in writing the stories because they have a challenge in copying from the board. As I explained earlier, the complexity of copying from the board and giving the instructions to our hands to write. So, they may be having challenges with holding the pencil properly. Or so what do we do if they can't hold a pencil properly? Sometimes we instead of a thinner pencil, we might give them a thicker pen to write on so that their grip is better with the thicker pens. So now I have covered a little in the brief description about the types of learning disabilities, going back to dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, dysphasia, as well as non-verbal learning disabilities. Now I'm going to talk about myth and the wrong information or the incorrect information about learning disabilities. Learning disabilities are more common in people with low intelligence. This is completely wrong. The children with learning disabilities often have a higher intellectual capacity. So, or sometimes that's why we call some kids have some higher order cognitive skills or intellectual capacities. So by definition, by the concept, the students with learning disabilities have average to above average intellectual level, and still, besides having average to above average intellectual capacities, they still struggle in reading and writing or doing math. So it's not related to intelligence. So learning disability is only a problem in school settings? Not true. While learning disabilities, they make school very, very difficult, their influence can extend beyond the classroom. Difficulties expressing ourselves in the verbal format or communicating in a social setting can be a challenge, because learning disability has a language communication challenge as such. So dyslexics reads backward. No, it is not that could be one symptom, but not all dyslexics would be reading backwards. No. Some struggle with single letter reversals like DOES and DOSE, while others have difficulties telling single letters apart or stringing multiple sounds together to form a word. Can we say that these people with learning disabilities are lazy? No, they they work really, really hard, but the results may not show their efforts. The product may not be the same. The outcome of their effort is not the same. So how do we give them a fair opportunity? By giving them the right kind of strategies to improve their cognitive abilities as well as perceptual motor skill sets. Accommodation. So as a school system in US, in UK, and most of the other countries, some countries where we have a better awareness of the concept of learning disabilities, there are some accommodations. So some people think that it's unfair advantage that because they're getting those kind of accommodations in school. But we as professionals understand that it's not unfair for them to get those accommodations. Those accommodations are helping the children with learning disabilities to come at par with the average children to learn optimally based on their own skill sets and abilities. So for a very long time, it was believed that learning disabilities affect more boys than girls. This one is a little tricky situation. Oh, let me go back. Yeah. So while more boys are diagnosed with learning disabilities, but experts believe that they actually affect both genders at the same rate. Girls may be flying under the radar there. So what happens is, okay. Why my slides are overlapping a little bit. So girls may be flying under the radar and may require closer observations and more proactive interventions. So research doesn't support the idea that more boys are diagnosed with, more boys have learning disabilities. Because if we come to see more of these problems, like boys are more, technically boys get diagnosed more than the girls, because girls may hide it or compensate it with some strategies or with other skill sets. But there is no scientific evidence that less girls will have learning disabilities and dyslexia. About 50% of the individuals with learning disabilities will have one or more related orders. These related orders are the comorbid conditions. Are we on time, Rosalind?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so okay, so what are some of the comorbid conditions associated with learning disabilities? Attention deficit disorders, central auditory processing disorder, and visual perceptual s- auditory processing as well as perceptual motor disorders. I'm not going to talk about executive functioning disorders here a lot, because in itself executive functioning disorders are a big field by themselves, but there is some overlap of children with learning disabilities showing executive functioning disorders also. The biggest part here, the biggest coexisting condition with learning disabilities is the ADHD, the attention deficit disorder, with or without hyperactivity. So we all know that ADHD is a neurological disorder that impacts the part of our brain that help us plan, focus on, and execute the tasks. So let me do one thing here. I may take a little pause here and work and show another small video, because I believe it's going a little too content oriented. I'm going to show a small video here.
So, you're dyslexic. Congratulations. You are part of a club of some pretty extraordinary people. Here's a roundup of
So now I am going to start my slideshow one again. So the biggest as such, the comorbid factor with learning disabilities is the attention deficit disorder. So studies of dyslexia have consistently found that attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is the most common co-occurring disorder with learning disabilities. And it is estimated that 15 to 40% of children with dyslexia are also diagnosed with ADHD. So what are the common traits between ADHD and learning disabilities? About 50% of the people with ADHD who have a relative also has it. About 30% of the people with dyslexia have a relative who has it. So it is genetically, both the situations are running in families. It's related to the family, and there is a genetic or the heredity base for both the conditions. Brains are physically and chemically different in both the conditions with ADHD and dyslexia. People have less activity in so again, there is a similarity in ADHD and learning disability that the brains are physically as well as chemically different. The structure of our brain is different. Some part of ADHD brain has less activity in certain areas, and people with dyslexia and learning disabilities have left side of the brain as less active. So what are the symptoms, similarities and differences and differences between the symptoms of ADHD and dyslexia. So in ADHD, okay, let me go back. So the children with ADHD might find organizing their thoughts and spotting errors in your writings are the biggest challenge. And in dyslexia, dyslexia can make it hard to spell, proofread, organize, and use grammar correctly. So these were the troubles in writing. And okay. And both find it hard to write neatly. The kids with ADHD as well as dyslexia, they find it hard to write neatly. Okay. So that was the writing part. But in now ADHD and dyslexia, with the kids with ADHD may be slow in reading speed. They usually read accurately, skip over the punctuation and endings. They might lose the place on a page. Again, dyslexic children also, the kids with dyslexia also may take longer to sound out words. They misread word. Their reading can be disfluent. Major problem with the accuracy. And now we already covered the part of the writing part. Now, so those were the similarities and how ADHD and dyslexia and learning disabilities are correlated. So sometimes we have seen, earlier it was thought that all the children with attention deficit disorders will have learning disabilities, but all the children with learning disabilities may not have attention deficit disorder also. So this is valid till date also, that the kids who are diagnosed with ADHD will surely have some kind of reading and spelling difficulties or learning differences, but all children with learning disabilities may not have attention deficit disorders. So another comorbidity situation with learning differences is the central auditory processing issues. There is an overlap. Some people do not find central auditory processing disorder to be a separate part. They may find it as a part of learning disability, but for my own understanding and clarity, I think that central auditory processing is a different part, but which is very strongly connected with the learning differences. There is a growing recognition that good auditory processing abilities are essential for successful academic progress. Children who have auditory processing deficits often find reading, writing, and spelling difficult because these skills require an ability to recognize and distinguish between sounds and the words, blend them together, separate the words into syllables, and follow auditory sequences. And there is an overlap of the signs and symptoms of central auditory processing disorders with ADHD also, but they are not the same. So I won't go in much details there, but it's too much of an assessment overlap there. But we have to understand that the auditory processing is different than ADHD, but both these are related to learning differences. So the children with central auditory processing may also speak too loudly. They may appear to daydream, get lost in the verbalization or the rote verbalizations. They don't enjoy music at times. And sometimes they use the phrase like, I forget. They are not understood. So substitute the gestures for words. They try to lip read, have trouble with phonics-based activities, and look to see what others are doing before beginning an activity. So they may be a part of auditory processing deficits, may be a part of learning disabilities, but we need a formal diagnosis. And who does the diagnosis for auditory processing? An audiologist. A trained audiologist is a person who will be doing the assessment for auditory processing disorder. it's not the related to regular hearing loss. How the information received by our ears is getting processed to be to get it to apply it in reading and writing part. Main component is the phonics or the hearing process. More and more children with learning and reading disabilities are being referred to audiologists for a hearing and auditory processing evaluation these days. Now we come on to the visual processing disorders. So again, visual processing refers to how the visual information is being interpreted and processed by the brain. It's not optical or the vision problem. The children with learning disabilities or visual processing disorders have a 20/20 vision. It's a problem with the brain's ability to interpret and process the information received through the eyes. It's the ability to recognize, track, remember, and interpret visual information. So difficulties with these processing will affect how visual information is interpreted or processed by the brain. What are the common signs and symptoms of children with visual processing issues? Again, there is an overlap with kids with learning disabilities in reading and writing and spelling. They will find it difficulty in paying attention to the visual tasks, easily distracted and overwhelmed by too much of visual stimuli. For example, if there is too much of information on a page, for example, ideal book is like this. When we are reading, there's a big picture and less sentences on this page while we are reading. And on the other hand, if there are some information like this on a page, this is too much information for the children to read. So we have to find a way where children don't get overwhelmed by the lot of visual information on one page. How do we deal with that part? What at times we will keep, while if the child has to read on this page, what I will do, I'll keep a blank sheet of paper and go over one line at a time so that the child can read it properly and not lose the space while the student is reading. Again, omitting words or letters, skipping lines and words, poor spatial awareness, poor handwriting, inaccurate placements on lines. Again, so sometimes we can see the children, one new thing which has come up in these signs and symptoms, straining. The kids may be trying to rub their eyes and we can see that they're getting fatigued, and there is a physical fatigue and the mental fatigue because their eyes are getting strained because of too much information from the blackboard, from the whiteboard, or from their notebooks or the books. Now, another interesting part which is correlated, somebody had asked the question yesterday, if autism spectrum disorder is also related to learning disability. In itself, autism spectrum disorder is a separate condition identified by a diagnostic and statistical manual. It's not a learning disability, but it can affect learning, in part because autism can affect the language skills, both listening as well as speaking. Autism spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder. Again, learning disability is also has a neurological base. And in autism spectrum disorder, we have difficulty with social interactions, engaging in repetitive or ritualistic behavior, and obsession with certain topics of interest. I'll give you one example. A few years back, I was working with a 7-year-old boy who had some obsession and fixation of to draw three-dimensional figures of cars. When I went through his history and learned about the background of this kid's family had experienced a massive car accident in which 2 of his family members died. He was the only survivor with his dad. His mom and his sister, they died in the car accident. But so that's how that whole experience has impacted his brain so much that he could draw those three-dimensional pictures of the cars, but no, he was not at all verbal. It was very difficult condition emotionally for the child and for us also to work with him. But with some other strategies, we did get across to him and we created a plan for him. So now, how are ASD, autism spectrum disorders, and learning disabilities uh, like related? What are the common characteristics there? Both are lifelong conditions. Neither has a cure. Both can significantly impact a person's life. Early detection and intervention is important in both. Sensory processing issues, emotional dysregulations or meltdowns, and trouble with social skills are common in autism spectrum disorder and all the learning disabilities. So thank you so much for this for this presentation I think I can stop right now, and I am ready to take the questions here.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sethi, for the wonderful presentation. I encourage everyone to post in your questions while I'll be reading them out to Dr. Sethi. Dr. Sethi, if you can do us a favor to stop your screen share so I can go ahead and read some questions to you. Thank you.
So yeah, Rosalind, you will be asking the questions, or yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Your first questions here is, can you give us some strategies for children with auditory processing challenges? Strategies for children with auditory processing challenges.
Yes, there are, but I think we may have to do a complete training or a workshop for auditory processing issues, how strategies for auditory. So we have to do a lot of phonemic awareness exercises if it's related to the words, blending, segmenting, rhyming. So like, okay, for example, I can just share one or two examples here. For example, I can just share it with you. Say the word bag. The student says the word bag. Now I can say, okay, say the word bag. Now replace the sound of bag, or the b, with the word becomes rag. Now, this was a practice in the initial sound. If we give them a practice in the end sound, understanding of auditory processing training. So, okay, say the word bat. Bat. Now replace the end sound with g. So the word becomes bag. So, and then in the middle sound, now say the word rat. Rat. Now replace the vowel sound A with O. The word becomes rot. So this is one example of phonemic awareness, one part. Like segmenting and deleting the other could be, here we are substituting. Now there could be omitting or deleting the sounds. Say the word bag. Now say the word without b, ag. Say the word bat. Say it without t, ba. So these are some basic exercises, but there is a lot of work. We need special trainings for doing all these activities and for the interventions and strategies for auditory processing. We need to, I think the Orton-Gillingham multisensory approach of teaching certification programs work a lot on phonemic awareness activities, which is one small piece of auditory processing. There is, besides phonemic awareness, there's a whole program and concept of auditory processing training. I've just given you a glimpse of one or two strategies.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sethi. The next question here is, what is the difference between Irene syndrome and Dyscalculia?
The difference between Dyscalculia and
Irene syndrome.
Irene syndrome. Irene syndrome is again related to visual processing area. It's a complete different thing. So dyscalculia is the challenge, is a part of specific learning disabilities, which deals with the area, the concerns where the children are struggling with math areas. If they have a challenge with the number system, numeracy concepts, finding the like arithmetic operations and the word problems. So the way math has two parts: math, arithmetic, and the mathematics. Arithmetic is the part where we are doing the operations of addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. And math is where the applied part of the math, where we use these operations to do the math problems, where we have uh, algebra, trigonometry, geometry, problem solving, critical thinking, all those things. But Irlen syndrome is a different kind of a disorder where children have vision related challenges. An optometrist is the right person to diagnose a child with a Irlen syndrome. We don't work as such as an Irlen syndrome. The kids with Irlen syndrome may have some learning disabilities, but we don't, that's a very small percentage of kids, small percentage of area where there may be very few cases of the kids, but some people are working in Irlen syndrome and using it effectively with children with learning disabilities also.
Thank you very much. I have the next question. Can you give us some, okay, we have taken this already. Please, what are the best classroom management strategy for children with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, ADHD?
Yeah, classroom strategies, of course. It's a big area of concern these days. We know there are a lot of children who are showing us the signs and symptoms or who have a diagnosis of ADHD. How do we manage these children in the classroom is a big struggle and a big concern for all of us. So it's again can be a huge complete one workshop on classroom management, but just a couple of strategies I can share with the participants here is that if we don't ask the child to just stay and sitting at one location, if we can have some sitting flexibility in the sitting part or the standing part of the student, he can stand at a desk and work, or he can have some fidget tools like Fitbit, or keeping something in his hand like a clay ball or a squeezy ball in his hands to play around, because his hand and the body has to be involved physically somewhere. Or if some, because that's why we see that the kids sometimes maybe doing tuck 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 tuck, like something like this, or fidgeting their body somewhere. So if we can have their sitting arrangement, which is flexible, either they can stand, we can have those sensory balls in our classroom, those squishy balls or which they can use to sit upon. And sometimes the kids can be given a flexibility to stand on a desk and do it. If they can be made to sit next to the teacher or closer to the teacher, where the teacher can give them frequent reminders for their work and giving them some visual cues to complete their work, reminders, auditory reminders, get them associated with some other peers. The buddy system in the classroom will help them, putting them some reminders and visual cues on their desks or in the classroom on the wall or the whiteboard somewhere. So these are basic things, but we can have a bigger workshop, one-day workshop on auditory, on the classroom management for children with ADHD.
Fantastic. Let's see our next question here. And someone is asking, can someone have a comorbidity of all these learning disabilities?
Yes. So as we have discussed that the learning disabilities are the spectrum. Some kids may have only dyslexia. Some kids may have dyslexia where their reading is impacted, their writing is impacted, or their the dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. So we can have mild to moderate to severe. So the children with milder issues may just have dyslexia, just a little bit of reading challenges. Some kids may have only math issues. Some kids may have just spelling issues. There is a huge variety or the spectrum of children who can have reading, writing, spelling, or math issues also, all in one. And yes, so it can occur in isolation, and some children may have all of them. Yes.
Thank you so much. How do I deal with a child who consistently loses concentration, lost to herself, and had to be prompted severally before completing a task?
Yeah, so some classroom basic strategies could be to give the written instruction, like preparing the instruction beforehand for this child. If the child can be given a whole written instruction in front of them, and if the children are working independently in the classroom, this child can sit with a teacher and work for some time, giving the instructions again. And if the child is losing the focus, again, as we have discussed, this part could be related to ADHD. Without even the formal diagnosis, we can help them by making them sit closer to you, or creating a buddy system, or giving the instruction in small pieces, not all the instruction of 4 or 5 instruction at the same time, but making the strips of paper. Maybe if I can show you on this board here, if I create 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 steps and write it, and then I show them just this particular child, one instruction at a time. And then, okay, are you done with the first step? Now go to the second step. Now do that, especially in the math aspect or the writing part. Okay, write the introduction, write today's date, write the topic of the story, what we are writing. Next, add 3 sentences there. Just write 3 sentences. If the child is having some challenges with spellings, you can give them flashcards. Make these kind of flashcards or some paper pencil flashcards for them. Okay, here is the spelling of the words what you want to write. So use that, create a spelling list of reading word bank, giving them word banks and the correct spellings, so that they don't get stuck on the spelling piece. And then ask them to arrange the words in creating the correct sentences. So there are variety of ways of doing these things in the classroom situations. I hope, Rosalind, I'm answering the questions correctly. Some
yes,
part.
please. Yes, please. So I'm just, please, how can one be of help to an adult with low syndrome that reacts outside what is happening presently? I'm not sure this question. How can one be of help to an adult with low syndrome that reacts outside what is happening presently? I'm not sure if this question came out very well, but Dr. Sethi, do you have any idea about what a person?
Even I am looking at the chat. Please, how can one be of help to an adult with low syndrome? What is low syndrome? Are they talking about? Low syndrome that react outside what's happening presently. Can you please frame this question correctly, or how do, so we, who's this person? FB.
If you can rephrase that question, we'll be happy to throw some insight on that if it's fall within our mean. The next question, what are the major causes of dyscalculia issue? What are the major causes of dyscalculia issues?
The causes for dyscalculia could be, as we are discussing, that the learning disabilities can be caused by hereditary or the other. There are no causes as such known for learning disabilities, but for dyscalculia, like if we relate it to from my perspective, we don't teach the math we don't teach the basic mathematic readiness skills in our classrooms as such. At time, just correct me if I'm wrong, Rosalind, at what age are the kids entering formal school in Africa? At what age they start the schooling?
Do
They're
what?
5. At what age the kids enter the school system there in Africa?
I mean, I know for first grade, and if I'm wrong, please can someone correct me? I know for first grade 6, but it depends on what other age. But let me see if Ida is here. Ida Alote, I'm unmuting you to kind of throw a light on that for her, please.
Okay. So, and are the kids attending some preschools before they enter first grade?
I like Ida to help us kind of explain that to you. Madam Ida Alote Brown, are you here?
Yes, Rosalind, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, Ida. Yeah. So
Okay.
can you explain us a little bit, because before I can answer the question for the causes of dyscalculia, like I wanted to understand at what age do the children enter the formal schools, and if they're getting any preschool experience before they enter formal schools?
They do usually get preschool experience. Usually, it depends on what curricula the child is going under. If it's the Ghana educational system, then they usually say from 2 years upwards. So at least at age 3, you should be in the preschool. The
Okay.
preschool has the nursery, the kindergarten, and
Okay.
other things. But then we also have the international setting, where they have the Cambridge systems and then the IGCS and the Cambridge, the
Correct.
International
Okay.
Baccalaureate. They
Yeah.
also have a system that starts from age 3 also.
Oh, okay. In IGCSE kind of an environment, they have the early years program and the middle school program and then the high school program. So
Exactly.
yeah. So my intention of asking was that the causes why we feel that the learning disabilities in math, the dyscalculia has become a bigger and bigger challenge now, because we at times we don't focus on teaching the early math concepts like the cognitive skill area deficits in the classification skills, sorting skills, grouping the things together, seriation, sequential thinking, and comparison, more comparison of, like, for example, give me a moment. I can pull out a couple of things from my math basket here and show you a few things. I am getting my box, a small box of this. So sometimes if we make, this is one basic things what we use. If the kids do not have the concept of basic numeracy skills, they will not have the higher order math concepts anyways. So for example, let me share my screen for just one moment and show you a couple of things. Okay, for example, I'm using these cubes here. And so if I ask them, there are all these cubes, if I keep in front of the children, okay, classify, these are all cubes of different color. Now, if I ask them, sort out all the orange cubes, sort out all the yellow ones at one part, sort out the green ones, sort out the blue ones. So counting part and any other thing. So sorting of this sorting and classifying of work of this part. So some of these skills are like what we call them the early math skills, or the fundamental essential. Before we can teach the number concept or the addition concept or the subtraction concept, we need to build on their early concepts of math from their daily environment. If the children don't have those, they will definitely get into some sort of math difficulties, be it dyscalculia or not. It can be anything. So the majority of time, what we feel that the kids have to learn problem solving skills, critical thinking skills, and from their daily life. What will be more like the concepts of if I show them a picture of 2 buckets filling up with water, which bucket is going to be filled up faster than the other one, who will reach, if somebody is going on riding a bike, or if somebody is going by a car, which of these two people will reach their destination faster or quicker. So the concept of time, the concept of temporal concept, spatial orientation, and the classification, one-to-one correspondence, grouping, sequential thinking, arranging the things in from the lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, tallest to shortest, shortest to longest, or the tallest. So these are the skills we need a big amount of focus in the early part of math development. And these could be causing, so unless their fundamental skills are there, like we have to build the fundamental skills of the children in to for the children to have a good math abilities and skill sets. Okay, thank you. So
We
what are
have
the
a
new?
Is there, oh, hold on. Is there a special training for teachers who intend using the Orton-Gillingham approach in helping children reading difficulties? Yes.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
shed light on that.
Yeah. And Rosalind, we should be tapping onto that after this workshop. If people are interested in that, we can guide them in getting those trainings too.
Yes, so we have plans in getting those trainings, to get connected to organizations and individuals to get those trainings. So just stay with us, join our Telegram group, read our newsletters, be monitoring your emails to receive more information on all these. And I see a lot of questions also on the certificates. Please, there will be certificates issued at the end of July. So this training is just one session part of the entire 5 sessions that we have. And if you have seen the program outline, the trainings are in sequence. That is why we started from the history of learning disabilities. Then we came to the types of learning disabilities. And next week, we're going to go into more. Next week, we bring in Blessing from Nigeria, and we bring in Dr. Sethi again. And then we'll go to May, where we have someone coming for May. And we have quite a number of trainers coming. So if you want to benefit from all of it and then get the certificate, then I would say that make it available to stay with us. It is also the reason we want you to enjoy and take part of it. That is why we've spread the timing. So today is the end day for April, for March. April is just 2 days in April, which is the last Friday and the last Saturday of April to July. So please mark your calendars, and it's still 6:30 p.m. GMT, so you do not have to miss any of this training. Dr. Sethi, do you have anything more to ask for or to add to it whilst I go through our last questions? Then we will be wrapping up.
I want to add just 1 or 2 more pointers. That yes, we our goal, as Rosalind is saying again and again, that our goal is to create enough interest and sensitivity and the background knowledge and the foundational knowledge before we can jump up to providing the Orton-Gillingham approach of teaching. Because the thing is that we have to create enough resources for the teachers to understand the concept, and it will depend a lot on how many clients or how many people would benefit from that. Because some of the training can be free, but some of the training might need some money. And how do we get the clients? How can we make it effectively usable in our school system? Will the school allow us to work using that OG approach in the school? Or are we targeting at creating our own learning centers or private practices? So those are the logistical questions which we need to ask ourselves and generate enough interest. How Africa Dyslexia Organization and we can provide the support to them, but we have to come up with some concrete plan of action for these trainings and for the long-term use and implementation. Yes, you can go ahead, Rosalind, for the next questions.
All right, so I see Amos' hands up, and he has been raising his hands forever, and I would like to just unmute him if he has something to say. We do have some few minutes to permit that. Amos,
Okay.
please be brief as I unmute you to ask your question. You can go ahead. Amos, are you there? Okay, so I think Amos is not hearing us, so I will go ahead. Please, how can one help learners with learning disabilities?
Pardon, I didn't hear it properly.
How can one help learners with learning disabilities?
How can one help the children with learning disabilities?
Yes, please.
Yeah, there are multiple ways. There are whole training program for us. Because it's such a broad question, we have to, first step, what we have started taking with Africa Dyslexia Organization is that we are creating awareness about learning disabilities in the biggest community of teachers. And how many participants are there for today's meeting here so far? I think 153 I can see. Are there more than that?
Yeah, we were at like 200, but it just reduced the number to that.
Okay. So yeah, so day by day, we are increasing the awareness about learning disabilities. That's the first step. It's not easy to create awareness and then take the next step. We can help the children by with learning disabilities in regular classroom. The first step is being taken by creating awareness, sensitivity, and the next step could be to help the children in the inclusive environment by providing the resources, training, and creating resource room in the classrooms in school. So I'm seeing one question here by Aneka, that Anek, A-N-N-E-K-E, my apologies if I'm not pronouncing the name correctly, Aneke, that the inclusive policy is there in, if there is a inclusive policy in Ghana, that's the best thing to have, but the teachers and the school administrators have to be aware of how to set up and the resource center in the school environment and provide the services within the school setup. There are ways of doing this. So that would be the best way to help the children with learning disabilities in the regular school environments and the classroom. But teachers and teachers need to be trained. And if we need to have special staff and allied professionals like speech and language pathologists, occupational therapists, and special educators, the educational therapist or the learning therapist, we need to have a whole team, multidisciplinary team within the regular school environments to help the students as well as the teachers.
Fantastic. And I see a question from Heidi. It's a bit long, but it says, is it fair to keep a child with dyslexia, dyscalculia, dysgraphia in a mainstream school as they only receive support in formal testing and not in everyday classroom, as reading and writing level is poor?
Again, it's a very tricky and a difficult question to answer. In theory, the child should be in the mainstream classroom, but if the school does not have any support system, the parents might have to take the help from outside. But the child should be a part of mainstream education, but the child needs some support. From where this child will get the support is a question. If there are some resources in the community, some special educators, OG trained tutors, coaches, learning therapists, we might have to, but the first step could also be to get a child evaluated. So we have to find these resources. That's why we are all doing this exercise. It is going to take some time. And as a part of our training and initiative, we should be trying to collect the data for the resources in different parts of Africa, especially starting from Ghana right now, if we can come up with some resources, local resources, and where is the need, and trying to match the parents with these resources, with the schools, to reach out to the kids who need this help and support. Yes.
Fantastic. So this one here is Josephine Walter Amo. Please, I want to ask, I have a sister who is able to do everything except for the fact that she can keep up academically. She can't read, she can write. We were told to get her a facilitator. Please, is that the best idea? And if not, how can we help her? Okay, so basically her sister can't read, cannot write, and they were advised to get like a special teacher for the child. And she's asking, is this the best idea? And if not, how can they help the sister?
I did not get the question correctly. Can you please repeat it one more time? If this girl in question is in a position to read and write well or no?
She's not able to read and write. Therefore, the school have advised to get her a special teacher or somebody to teach her privately. And she's asking, is it the best solution, or what should be the best solution?
See, the best solution will be, again, as we are repeating it again and again, and in a rhetoric way, that the children need to get the support within the school environment. But if that support is not there, the child has to get the services from outside the school environment. But again, if the child is getting support from outside, again, for the social interaction and for the other parts which are not related to direct academic learning or reading and writing, for computers, for dramas, for PE and all those things, the child still needs to be a part of a school system. So there has to be a merger of both these systems right now. But ideally, in some services in inclusive environment where we need to train the teachers, but before the teachers, the school administration has to understand the need and the importance of having to provide the services within the inclusive environments.
Thank you so much for that. And I think that will bring us to almost the end of our program. And Miss Ida would like to share like a little bit of the motivations to other teachers as well. She's one of the fantastic teachers that Africa Dyslexia, we know, that is supporting a lot of students to be able to get them to read even within like 6 months. And so Miss Ida, if you're still on, just say something within a minute for us whilst we come to the end of our program.
Well, all I have to say is that it's a challenge. Whatever this field we've chosen is a challenge, but it's not insurmountable. Therefore, whatever we can do, the best that we can do to help our students, our kids, our family members, whoever, to be able to come up, even if we are not able to move them to the level that we want, but we'll be able to motivate them to have that fighting spirit. That would be the best to help them go through life, because we may not be with them throughout their whole lifespan, but we would be with them for some time. So what impact are we making towards our kids or our students? Whatever thing that we can do to help motivate them, to keep them up to speed with life, I would advise that we do it, even if it would mean that it would cost us money. Don't think about it now, but think of the future and the impacts that would be able to make onto our kids' lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ida, for that wonderful insight. And that is how we also encourage all of you that you can make impacts in that child's life, even just by you being kind to that child who is finding it difficult in the classroom. Being kind to them is one step to the other. And then studying and using some of the signs and symptoms that you're going to be seeing in them and then recommending them to the appropriate person to give them the support is what we are looking for. This is a baby step we've taken. We know this is new to you. We are not saying that every person or every teacher become a special educator. That is not what we're saying. But we believe in that if you are well informed, that way you are able to identify and be kind to that child. And so I would like to say a very big thank you to Dr. Sethi, and I would say a big thank you to also to Ida Brown for coming in to share a little bit. I'd like to also say thank you to our able Atakwesi Martin, who did the sign language interpreting for us. That was amazing. And we just want to also say thank you to our amazing volunteers. Please remember that we are having this training again, not exactly this, but we're having the training again next month, last Friday and Saturday of the month. Please block all your calendars from last Saturday, Friday and Saturday of the month of April to July, so you can have full value of the training. It is packed. We bring in people from GES to also to come and speak about the available resources that we have in Ghana, because some of them they say we have, but we don't know we have. So they have to throw light on them for us. We bring in somebody to speak on that. We're going to go more into practicals and stuff. So this stage was the informational stage. I have put in a link in the group. One of the link is our Telegram group. If you want to keep staying informed, then please join the Telegram group, because we'll be posting all the resources, the videos, the slides. We'll be posting them, and we'll also be emailing them to you. A lot of people don't read their emails. You know, I can tell when you open your emails and read the times, the number of times, and what you actually did with your email. I can tell from my end, and I know like 90% of us don't open our emails. So I see you posting your emails, but then if we send, would you open? The answer is probably no. So please, the best place to join will be the Telegram. I have also shared a link for you to give us a feedback on this 2 days presentation and training, so that we are able to improve on the rest of the events that is coming. I'd like to also let you know that Africa Dyslexia Organization flagship program, Dyslexia Global Conversation, starts 1st of April. It is the first Friday of every month, and we bring in people who are dyslexic, teachers who are teaching students with learning difficulties, different experts on it to come and talk. So this Friday, join us on our Facebook, on our YouTube. Just type Africa Dyslexia Organization on Facebook and follow us. And as you can see, the trainings have been projected. The training dates have been projected on the screen. Once again, certificates will be issued at the end of July. So please don't email me asking again. Aside that, I think we are so good, and I will say thank you again to Dr. Sethi, and thank you to NACOP, thank you to all our partners who made this happen, and thank you to yourself as well. Clap for yourself.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was fantastic interacting with the participants today. Yeah, lovely.
Fantastic. So I know most of us have left, but then let's take our picture for today so that we can have it in our memories. Please turn off your cameras if you can, and if we can stop sharing the screen so we take a beautiful picture here to make memories. Yay! So we currently have six screens, and I'm going to take the pictures myself. So do your best poses. Awesome. I've taken the first one. Love it. I love the poses. Please put on your cameras.
Lovely.
If you can't put on your camera, don't worry. I will still take your name as the picture. It's okay. Yes, please send us your feedbacks. They are very important to us. It is the only way we would know how to improve on this. And listen, if you're here and you also want to support Africa Dyslexia Organization, you go on our website and there is a donating button there. You can donate anything to support us, but we are not asking you to do, just throwing it out there if you are called to do that. But we are here to walk this journey with you and to provide you all resources. If you need to assess a student and you need where to go, give us a call. If you need great teachers to assist your child like Ida, call us as well, and we will be able to refer you to all our wonderful people. So this is a very good night to you all, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. I will
Thank
show the
you so
video
much.
again.
Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old and I was in school and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen, focus, and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teacher you go back to class, just try sitting on your hand. I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me, though, was when I was about 10 years old and I was in school and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen, focus, and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." So I did. I went back to class and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me that I will never forget it. So I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. He walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "No, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he asked, he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." From that moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me and he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.
Let's all be like Mr. Johnson. That is the title of the movie, and I have put in a direct link of the movie in our chat. Inspiration video shown. So please copy it and play it or share it with your people. But don't forget to join our Telegram group and also to send in your feedback of this training to us. It will be so helpful. All the links are in the chat group. So I'm keeping this here for a bit for those of you who like to copy the links, who like to send us your feedbacks. Grateful, we'll be grateful to you. Thank you so much.